The tears no one saw but him. Theater lights had just dimmed. Backstage, the buzz of crew members, the hum of machines, and the whisper of 1,000 moving pieces filled the air. Outside the heavy curtains, a full house waited. Cameras were rolling. People were cheering. It was the biggest night of the year, the Global Film Awards. But in a shadowed corner, just behind the golden stage, Ana de Armas stood silently, her back pressed to the cold concrete wall. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes glistened with tears that she tried so hard to hold back. She had just walked off stage. After a tribute speech, the lights had been bright, the applause had been loud, but deep inside, she felt like she had failed. She had stumbled on a word. Her voice had cracked. And now, whispers were swirling through the production headsets. She heard them even though they weren't meant for her. She didn't rehearse enough. She looks nervous. Is she okay? That was awkward. Ana's breathing grew shallow. She bit her lip to stop it from trembling. She wiped her face quickly, hoping no one saw. She didn't want pity. She didn't want sympathy. She just wanted one thing: to disappear. But someone had seen. Keanu Reeves had been standing further back, near the exit that led to the quiet hallways. He hadn't meant to eavesdrop. He'd just come to get some fresh air between his segments. But when he turned the corner and saw Ana, her shoulders hunched, her head down, and those tears silently falling, something in his heart froze. He didn't call out her name. He didn't approach like an actor trying to comfort another. Moved slowly, respectfully, not as a star, not as a friend, but as a human being. Ana didn't hear him until he was right beside her. She startled when she felt someone nearby. When she looked up and saw him, her eyes widened with a kind of shame she didn't expect. She quickly turned away, brushing her tears harder now. "Don't look at me," she whispered. "Please." Keanu didn't flinch. He didn't pretend not to notice her pain. He didn't try to fix it with cliches or compliments. Instead, he leaned against the same wall beside her. He stayed quiet. The silence wasn't awkward. It was gentle, peaceful. After a moment, he spoke. "Can I tell you something?" said his voice low and soft. "I once forgot my line during a live monologue. Millions were watching. I stood there, frozen. My heart was pounding so loud, I thought the mic would pick it up." Ana blinked, surprised. He smiled, but it wasn't one of those fake comforting smiles. It was sad. Real. "I felt like I let everyone down," he said. "But you know what? Help me breathe again." She looked at him, waiting. A janitor backstage handed me a bottle of water and said, "You're still you, man. The world loves you because you're human. I never forgot that." Ana stared at him, not sure what to say. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Keanu looked at her gently. "You're still you, Ana. Nothing changes that. Not a cracked voice, not a nervous pause. The world needs more people who feel, and you just showed them you're real." The tears came again, but this time she didn't turn away. I tried. "So hard," she said, her voice shaking. "I wanted to make my family proud. My mom stayed up to watch me, and I messed it up." Keanu placed a hand on his chest. "My mom used to watch everything I did too. And even when I got it wrong, she'd smile and say, 'You stood up there. That's enough for me. Ana, your mom isn't counting your perfect moments. She's just proud you made it there.'" Ana slowly nodded, wiping her eyes one last time. Something shifted in her posture. She stood a little straighter, her breath a little calmer. "Thank you," she whispered. "No one's ever said that to me." Keanu stepped back, his job done. "Just promise me something," he said. "What?" she asked. "Next time you feel like hiding," he said, "don't. Come stand in the light. Even if your voice shakes." Ana let out a soft laugh, small but full of warmth. For the first time that night, she felt seen. Not as a rising actress, not as a celebrity, but as a person. Just then, the stage manager called her name. She was needed for the next segment. She looked at Keanu one more time, her eyes no longer heavy with doubt. This time, she walked out with strength in her step. And when the crowd saw her again, They didn't see a girl who had broken down. Saw a woman who had stood back up, and in the shadows Keanu watched silently, proud. When hearts speak louder than applause, Anna stepped back onto the stage with a calm fire in her chest. She didn't change her dress, she didn't redo her makeup, but something inside her had shifted. She no longer walked like a star chasing approval. She walked like a woman who had remembered who she was. The lights hit her again, but this time, they didn't blind her. The applause sounded the same, but it didn't shake her anymore. She smiled gently, nodded toward the audience, and took her seat beside the other presenters. Keanu, still standing behind the curtain, felt the moment. Not because she had stunned the crowd, but because she had survived her own storm. After the show, the after-party began. Glittering lights, music humming through the room, laughter echoing through every corner. People in elegant suits and shining gowns circled around, holding glasses and exchanging compliments that often meant little. But in one quieter corner, Anna stood near a table of untouched desserts, sipping water and staring at nothing. She didn't feel like celebrating. Not yet. Then she heard his voice behind her again. "You left before dessert." Anna turned. Keanu stood there, holding a small plate with a single chocolate tart and a strawberry on top. "You brought me dessert?" she asked, a little amused. He nodded. "It looked like you needed something sweet, or at least something real." She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "Real is rare here." "Then let's be rare," Keanu said. They sat together at a small round table, away from the flashing cameras. Just two people, not stars, not headlines, just people. Anna took a bite of the tart and closed her eyes for a second. "Okay, this is actually really good," she said. Keanu leaned back, watching her. "Better than the applause." "Honestly." She said, "Yes." A moment passed in silence. Then Anna leaned forward. "You know, I always thought you were this mystery man. Quiet, untouchable. But tonight, you showed me something else. You saw me. Not the makeup, not the dress. Just me." Keanu looked down, thoughtful. People often think silence means distance. Sometimes it's just listening. Anna looked into his eyes. "Do you always listen that deeply?" "I try," he said. "But only when the person matters." Something about his words made her chest ache. Not in pain, but in recognition. It was like finding a part of yourself in someone. Elsa's sentence. Keanu paused. "Do you want to know what I saw in you backstage?" "What?" she asked softly. "I saw someone who still cares deeply, who hasn't hardened. Someone who feels things fully, even when the world tells her to be cold and perfect." Anna swallowed. "Sometimes I feel too much." "That's not weakness," he said. "That's power. But the world doesn't always honor that." Her eyes glistened again, not from sadness this time, but from something else. Gratitude. A few guests started whispering nearby, pointing subtly in their direction. The press was always hungry for a story, especially one involving two stars sitting this close, looking this connected. Anna noticed and sighed. "They're probably thinking we're dating now." Keanu shrugged. "Let them think whatever they want. They always do." She smiled again. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Stay so calm when the world watches everything you do?" He looked at her, then said quietly, "Because I've already lived through things that made the cameras feel small." Anna leaned in, curiosity in her voice. "Like what?" Keanu hesitated. The music in the room faded in his ears, the clinking of glasses, the murmur of laughter. It all disappeared for a moment. "I lost someone," he finally said, "a long time ago. Someone who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And after that, no headline ever mattered the same." "Way again." Anna didn't speak. She didn't offer sympathy. She just nodded slowly, letting his truth sit in the air with respect. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "Don't be," he replied. "She taught me how to see people, like I saw you." The room spun on with its shallow joy and noise, but at their table, there was something sacred to people who had stripped away their masks in a world full of them. "I needed to hear that tonight," Anna said. "Maybe more than I knew." Keanu leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. Then maybe that's why I was there. She blinked. You believe in things like that? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he simply said, I believe. Some meetings are not accidents. A few minutes later, the party grew louder and people began to gather around them. But something in Anna had already changed. She no longer felt alone in the crowd. That night, when she went home, she wrote in her journal for the first time in months, not about her roles, not about her critics, but about a moment, a quiet one, where someone didn't try to fix her pain, but stood with her inside it. She ended her entry with one line: sometimes the kindest thing in the world is to be seen and not judged. And far across the city, Keanu sat on his balcony, sipping tea under the night sky, thinking not about the show, the photos, or the reviews, but about a woman who cried behind the stage and chose to walk back into the light. Whispers behind the Fumetto weeks had passed since the awards night. The world had already moved on, new headlines, new scandals, new faces. But for Anna, something stayed with her. Not the show, not the applause, not even the mistake that had haunted her for a night. What stayed was the silence, the gentle, powerful silence Keanu gave her when she needed it most. She hadn't seen him since that night. No calls, no texts, just space. But it didn't feel like distance. It felt respectful. Like he understood that some moments need time to grow inside you before they become something more. One morning, Anna sat by her kitchen window, a warm cup of tea in her hands. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her agent. You've been offered a lead role. Intense drama, real emotions. They said you came highly recommended. Guess who dropped your name? Anna stared at the message, confused and curious. She replied, Who? The next text came immediately. Keanu Reeves. Her breath caught. She didn't know what surprised her more, that he remembered her, or that he believed in her enough to speak her name in rooms she hadn't even entered yet. That afternoon, Anna was invited to meet the director. She walked into the small studio office with her shoulders pulled back, a quiet fire burning in her chest. The director greeted her with a warm smile. I've seen your work, he said. But Keanu said something that made me certain you were right for this. Anna raised her eyebrows. What did he say? The director smiled. He said, you know how to feel the weight of silence, and that makes you rare. Those words echoed in her ears the whole way home. Later that evening, Anna couldn't help herself. She texted Keanu. Anna, you recommended me? The reply came a few minutes later. Keanu, only because it's true. Anna smiled. She wanted to say more. She wanted to say more. She typed, Anna, thank you. Not just for the job. For seeing me that night when I didn't even see myself, he replied. Keanu, we all break sometimes, but not everyone knows how to rebuild. You did. They didn't speak again for a few days. Both had busy schedules, scripts to read, meetings to attend. But the silence between them wasn't empty. It was filled with understanding then. One rainy evening, Anna was walking through a quiet street in Los Angeles, her hood pulled up, trying to escape the noise of her own mind. The rain wasn't heavy, but it was enough to soak her sleeves. She had just turned a corner when she saw someone sitting under the small awning of a bookstore, sipping coffee from a paper cup. It was Keanu. He looked up. His eyes met hers. He didn't look surprised. Coffee in the rain, she asked with a smirk. Best kind, he replied, motioning to the empty seat beside him. She sat. Neither of them said much for a while. The sound of the rain filled the air between them like a soft melody. Finally, Anna spoke. Do you ever get tired of being strong for everyone? She asked. Keanu stared out into the street. Sometimes, he said, but then I remind myself. It's not about being strong. It's about being present. That's all most people need. Anna looked at him, the soft glow of the bookstore lights reflecting in her eyes. What do you need? He turned to her slowly. Someone who doesn't expect answers from me. Just honesty. Anna nodded. Dud. Then, without warning, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. I wrote something, she said. After that night, I don't know why, but I want you to have it. Keanu opened it gently. It was a handwritten poem, short, raw, and full of emotion. I broke, but someone sat beside the pieces. He didn't touch them, just stayed until I learned how to rebuild. Keanu read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it into his coat pocket like something sacred. "Thank you," he said, "for trusting me with that." Anna looked out at the rain again. "I think the world teaches us to be tough, but kindness still wins. Every time." Keanu nodded. "That's why I remembered your name." As they sat there, two well-known faces hiding from the world in the shadows of a quiet evening, a strange kind of peace wrapped around them. No photographers, no fans, just rain, coffee, and truth. What neither of them knew was that their quiet bond, their shared humanity, would soon be tested in ways neither could imagine. The world wasn't done watching. Them and what was coming next would require more than kindness, would demand courage. When the world watches your Silent Seth film offer turned into a contract, then a schedule, then a real set. Within 3 weeks, Anna stood in the middle of an old apartment set, dressed in a plain robe, holding a script that felt more like a mirror. Then a role. The character she was playing was raw, broken, filled with pain and love and confusion. And as Anna stepped into those shoes, she realized something. It wasn't acting. It was healing, and she had Keanu to thank for that. He wasn't in the film. He never asked for credit. But his name opened a door, and his kindness gave her the strength to walk through it. They texted sometimes, short messages, nothing dramatic. Just enough to remind each other they were still listening. But then something unexpected happened. On the 3rd week of filming, a small clip surfaced online. It showed Keanu and Anna sitting together at the awards after party, the quiet moment where he gave her dessert. Someone had recorded it without them knowing. The video didn't have clear audio, but the expressions said everything, her sadness, his calm presence, the way she looked at him like she had just remembered something she'd lost. Within hours, the video exploded across the internet. Keanu comforts Anna during breakdown secret bond. Emotional moments spark speculation. Fans praise Keanu's gentle support. Is he the last true gentleman in Hollywood? But there were other voices too, the kind that twist gentle things into stories soaked in drama. Is Anna using Keanu for sympathy, publicity stunt, or real moment? She cried on cue, just like in her movies. Anna stared at her phone in disbelief. Her heart pounded with a mixture of anger and embarrassment. She felt exposed, misunderstood, like something sacred had been stolen and turned into entertainment. Her director called her into his office that afternoon. "Don't worry," he said gently. "This won't affect your role. We're behind. But you should know. They're watching now. More than before." Anna nodded. She left quietly and sat in her car, hands frozen on the steering wheel. Her phone buzzed again. It was Keanu. Keanu just saw the clip. "I'm sorry, Anna." She hesitated, then replied, "Anna, they turned a quiet moment into a circus. I feel like they tore off my skin." Keanu responded a moment later. "Keanu, that moment belonged to you. No headline can change its truth. Don't let them take your healing." Her eyes filled with tears, not from sadness, from how deeply she felt. Seen by that single message, that night, Anna couldn't sleep. She kept hearing those cruel voices online. She kept seeing the comments, the edited clips, the accusations that hurt more than she expected. She almost didn't show up on set the next day, but she did. And when the camera rolled, something inside her cracked wide open. In one emotional scene, her character sat on a worn-out sofa, crying quietly into her hands. It wasn't acting. It was release. It was truth. The crew went silent. The director said nothing for 10 long seconds after the scene ended. Then finally he whispered, "Cut." No one clapped. No one moved, because they all felt it. Something real had passed through the room. After filming, Anna walked outside into the cool air. She needed to breathe, to think. Then she saw someone, leaning against a black motorcycle parked beside the trailers. It was Keanu. She blinked. "What are you doing here?" He pulled off his helmet, his hair a little messy from the ride. "I figured you might need a reminder." "A reminder?" she asked. "That what they say online doesn't define you?" and that the truth you live is bigger than the noise they spread. Anna looked at him, her voice quiet. I was so angry. Not just at them, at myself, for letting it get to me. You're human, he said, not a statue. She took a deep breath. I wanted to delete everything, go quiet, hide. Keanu shook his head gently. You don't need to hide. You need to keep showing up. Not for them. For you. Anna stared at the ground, then slowly looked up. Why do you keep showing up for me? Keanu gave a soft smile. 'Cause someone once did it for me. And because I know what it feels like when the world tries to define your soul with a headline. Anna walked toward him, standing just a step away. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. When you saw me that night? You see, Keanu met her eyes. I saw a woman fighting for herself, even through tears, especially through tears. Anna's lips trembled. Then, with a quiet voice, she said, Thank you. It's for seeing me when I didn't know how to see myself. He nodded, then offered her the helmet from his bike. Want to go for a ride? He asked. Now, she laughed softly. Yes, now, no cameras. No noise, just the road. She looked at the helmet, then back at him, and without a word. She took it, as they sped down the quiet streets outside the city, wind in their hair. No one watching, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Freedom, but what neither of them knew was that the ride that night would soon lead to a moment neither of them were ready for, a choice that would test everything they believed about kindness, truth, and what it means to stand for someone else when the world turns its back. A storm worth standing and ride through the city's edge was quiet, almost sacred. Anna held on to Keanu loosely, her mind blank for the first time in days. The rush of the air, the hum of the motorcycle, the rhythm of the road, it was all medicine. For a little while, she wasn't Anna de Armas, the actress, or Anna the internet target. She was just a soul moving through the wind beside someone who understood. When they reached the top of a hill overlooking the city, Keanu stopped. The bike. The city lights shimmered below like a sea of stars. Anna took off her helmet, letting her hair fall loose around her shoulders. You always ride here? She asked. Only when I need to remember how small the noise is, Keanu replied. She looked at him, eyes soft. I think this is the first time I've felt peace since that night. He didn't respond with words, only nodded, letting the silence say what needed to be said, but peace never stays untouched for long. The next morning, Anna woke to her phone buzzing uncontrollably. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of messages. Headlines flashing across every news platform. Anna de Armas and Keanu Reeves. Secret late-night ride exposed. Sources say Keanu spent the night with Anna. Is this romance or rebound? Backstage breakdown turns into blooming affair. Anna scrolled through the articles, her heart sinking lower with every line. Blurry pictures had been taken from a distance. Someone had followed them, even on the hill. Even in their silence, photos of Keanu's motorcycle, of Anna laughing. Of the moment they stood close, looking at the stars like two normal people just trying to breathe, but none of it was reported with kindness. The world wanted scandal. They wanted drama. They wanted something to tear apart. Anna's phone rang. It was her manager. They're calling nonstop. Every outlet wants a statement. Publicists are panicking. Some producers are reconsidering casting you for upcoming projects. They don't want emotional distractions tied to their brand. Anna stared at the floor in shock. I didn't do anything wrong, she whispered. I know that, her manager said. But the industry doesn't care about truth. It cares about control. By midday, hashtag Anna and Keanu was trending worldwide. People picked sides. Some praised them, others mocked them. Memes flooded the internet. Strangers debated their lives like it was a game show. Anna turned off her phone. She shut the curtains. She curled up on the couch and tried not to cry, but the tears came anyway. A few hours later, there was a gentle knock at her door. She didn't want to answer, but something inside her told her who it was. She opened it slowly. Keanu stood there. No sunglasses, no hat, no disguise. You saw? He asked gently. Anna nodded. They're tearing it apart. Keanu stepped inside. He didn't. He just moved toward her with that same calm she had come to trust. I feel like I'm being punished, she said, for being seen, for feeling safe, for healing. He sat beside her, not touching, just close enough. You're not being punished, he said. You're being tested. Ana's voice cracked. And what if I fail? Keanu looked into her eyes. Then I'll be there to remind you who you are. Silence filled the room again, heavy but safe. Then Ana whispered, Do you regret helping me? Never, Keanu replied, without hesitation. She leaned back, covering her face with both hands. I don't know how to fight this. Keanu took a slow breath. You don't fight it by shouting louder. You fight it by standing still in your truth. Let the world spin. Let them scream. But don't let them steal your peace. A few days passed. The storm online didn't calm. If anything, it grew louder. News anchors started debating their relationship. Paparazzi camped outside her building. Strangers shouted her name on the street. Then Keanu did something no one expected. He released a quiet video on his personal page. No flashy production, no background music. Just him, in a chair, looking into the camera. This is for the people who think kindness is a performance, he said. It's not. It's a choice. I supported Ana because she's a human being. One who needed someone to remind her of her worth. There's no scandal in that. Just a shared moment of humanity. He paused. Don't let the noise make you forget what compassion looks like. Don't let the headlines turn empathy into a punchline. And then he ended with, Ana, if you're watching this, I still see you, and I'm still here. The video exploded. To millions of views in hours, people cried. Others still mocked, but something shifted. For the first time, Yana saw people pushing back. He's right. We all need to be seen like that. Maybe the problem isn't them. Maybe it's us. Yana watched the video alone in her apartment. She didn't cry this time. She just whispered, thank you. She opened her window, breathed in the evening air, and felt something deep inside her. Something warm, unshaken, and alive. The storm hadn't passed. But now, she wasn't hiding anymore. And when the sun rose the next morning, she had already decided what she was going to do next. Something bold. Something no one expected. Something that would silence the noise, not with words, but with truth. Truth louder than the noiseth world was still buzzing with opinions, headlines, and wild guesses. But inside Ana's apartment, everything was quiet. Not the kind of silence that came from fear or hiding. This was the kind that comes before. A storm you choose to face. Head dash on Ana stood in front of her mirror. No makeup, no stylist, no script. She held her phone in one hand and stared at her reflection. She took a breath, pressed record, and spoke. Hi, this is Ana, not the actress, not the headline, just me. Her voice was calm but steady. The video you saw, that moment between me and Keanu, wasn't planned. It wasn't for the cameras. It wasn't part of some public game. It was a real moment of real kindness. She paused, eyes steady. I will never apologize for being human, Ana continued, her voice rising with emotion. If we've reached a point where kindness is questioned, where compassion is mocked, and maybe it's not the people being kind who need to change, maybe it's the world watching them. Then she smiled gently. Keanu, if you're watching, thank you for seeing me, for reminding me that being soft doesn't mean being weak. She ended the video with 4 simple words. Kindness is not weakness. She posted it without editing, no filters, no edits. Within minutes, it began to spread, not just as a celebrity response, but as something deeper. People from around the world began sharing their own stories. Strangers commented things like, this reminded me to forgive myself. I needed to hear this today. Maybe it's okay to not be perfect all the time. Ana didn't expect it to go viral. She just wanted to breathe again. But what came next surprised even her. 1 week later, she was invited to speak at a private conference for young artists, actors, musicians, writers, people who had been silenced, mocked, or broken by pressure. In judgment, she almost said no. But then she remembered that night, standing backstage, breaking down, and the quiet man who didn't try to save her stood with her. So she said yes. On the day of the event, she stood in front of the audience of about 80 people. Her hands trembled at first. But then, halfway through her speech, she spotted him, standing quietly at the back of the room. No one had announced him. No cameras followed him. Just Keanu, like always, showing up without needing to be seen. And that's when she stopped reading from her notes. "I want to tell you a story," she said. She spoke about the night she fell apart backstage, about the whispering voices, the fear, the shame, and the man who stood beside her, not as a star, but as a human being. "He reminded me," she said, "that we don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. We don't need to be flawless to be respected. Sometimes just being real is enough." The room went silent. Many had tears in their eyes after the speech. Keanu quietly approached her, hands in his pockets. "You didn't read from your notes," he said with a soft smile. "No," she replied. "I spoke from the place you reminded me I still had." Walked together through the garden behind the building. No interviews, no flashes, just peace. "How did you know I'd come tonight?" he asked. "I didn't," she said. "But I hoped." They sat on a bench under a tree, watching the sunset paint the sky, you know. Ness said, "If someone had told me a moment of weakness would lead me here, I would have never believed them." Keanu nodded. "What?" "But sometimes the cracks are where the light gets in." She turned to him. "Do you think people will forget this?" "Maybe," he said. "But the people who needed it, they won't." A soft breeze moved through the trees. Anna rested her head lightly on his shoulder, not out of romance, but out of trust. "I don't know what comes next," she whispered. "You don't have to," he replied. "Just promise you'll keep showing up even when it's hard, even when it's unfair." "I promise," she said that night. Anna went home and added one final line to her journal, the same one she had opened after that first breakdown. "He didn't rescue me. He reminded me I could walk out on my own." And from that day on, whenever the noise grew loud, she didn't shrink. She didn't hide. She simply stood tall, the woman who cried behind the stage, kept walking anyway. And somewhere in the crowd, always at the edge of the spotlight, stood a man who didn't need to be seen, but who saw her every time.